What's going on, everybody? And on here, and I wanted to the opportunity to take a look at SV pricing on the booster box side. Something we haven't done since the 13th of September. Uh, Things have obviously gone a little crazy here. We'll talk about Sword and Shield later this week, most likely. But I want to hit on Scarlet and Violet, and really what I expected to see here was, regardless of the price movement, the sales or the sell through rate and the sales velocity really starting to pick up now that we are basically a month into the fall, quote unquote, meaning after back to school. And we're seeing some really weird stuff because that hasn't really happened. Uh, but as we go through here, there have been some sets where there's been a lot of product coming to market, and there's a bunch of sets where the listings are just so absolutely super shallow. It's really weird. So let's start. SV base, $250. Really no change. Sell through still two per day. Again, this is average sales so for the last 30 days. Paldi evolved. It does look like some of this has come to market, pushed the price down, but it went very far, very fast. Three moving per day. So took a step backwards. And then same with Obsidian Flames. So $335 a box. Obsidian Flames is very shallow from a market perspective. And then we get into some really weird stuff. So Temporal Force is at 270, but it's like three boxes from being at 300. And I am actually shocked that nobody's bought this up to 400. Temporal Forces, you can buy it up to $400 with just about $400. I'm being a little facetious, but there isn't a whole lot of product between here and there. Now only two boxes. Now Paradox obviously went from 4 to 5 boxes because there was a little bit of a buyout here that pushed the product up. But it has taken a step back to 390, and a lot of product has come into the market at 390. For those of you who have a short memory, last September, October, Paradox Rift was available everywhere for $85, $87 a box. I think the last that we bought before one of our distributors was out, or our last distributor was out, was like $95 a box. So it's it's basically tripled since then, which is absolutely remarkable. But yeah, Temporal, it's very, very shallow. Twilight Masquerade is pretty shallow as well. 340 a box. There aren't a whole lot of boxes between here and $400. Only two selling a day, so that's a little light. And then we come to Stellar Crown. So Stellar Crown is up to $280, and there's almost nothing left on the market. And Stellar Crown has been very, very shallow on the supply side for months now. And it's been interesting because it's always been one of those sets that it sells a couple boxes a day, but there's always product that comes into the market. So the sell-through's gone from 2 to 3 boxes a day. It's up at $280. I think this is a weird one because, like Obsidian Flames, the set value isn't great, but you do have the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur that are starting to go. I don't want to say parabolic, but they're starting to make strong moves to the upside. And then you have my favorite right here, the Dash Bun SIR, which is probably one of the rarest SIRs in all of Scarlet Violet, because Stellar Crown has the smallest print run of any of the sets. I mean, that and Temporal probably, because nobody cared about them. But I digress. Surging Sparks, the sell-throughs slowed down a little bit because the box price is up. It's up to 305. Journey Together making a strong move up at 265. The enhanced has now passed the non-enhanced. I think the enhanced is 265. The non-enhanced is like 260. But 6 or 7 of these selling a day, which is his accelerated a little bit. And then Destined, up at 438. 18 of these selling a day. So what's interesting as we look at Mega Evolutions, and this is where I get a little concerned with the market. And we can see two numbers on here that are very close to each other. So Mega Evolution is at $345. Everybody pulled their prices down from TCG Player. There's a hit on or a buyout on them. 80 boxes on average have sold. But 80 boxes have sold in the last 30 days. And you go back to Destined, that was 89 that had sold. This was as of 5/26, so right around the week of release. I forget when what was it, the end of May, early June. Either way, it's close. And then if you go back to Journey Together, it was a little bit more. And then Surging Sparks, when the boxes were $110, the sell through was absolutely through the roof, where there were multiple hundreds of boxes selling per day on average for the 2 days or the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after release. So while the print runs have gone up, the sell-through rate in total dollars is through the roof, but the sell-through rate in actual units is down, and it's down fairly substantially. Now, again, this is just TCG Player. There's obviously a lot of product that doesn't need to pay all of the fees and whatever for TCG Player to sell the product. At this point, it sells itself. All you have to do is, you make a Reddit post, a Twitter post that, hey, here's my website, come buy it here. And you can get darn close to market, especially if you have some semblance of credibility. So I think some of it is related to less sell-through on TCG Player, but it's very interesting to think about just conceptually. Has the same amount of products sold through just through different platforms and different methods? Or is there just a lot of this stuff sitting because everybody, all the big guys, all the distributors are holding product back because they know it's basically gold bars? I don't know the answer to that, but it's going to be really interesting here. Again, in my opinion, I think we're going to start to see things slow down after 30th anniversary. And quite honestly, I think it's a fairly common opinion at this point. But it's not going to slow down until then. Certainly not in 2025, unless we get caught by surprise here now. I think with the buyout of Destined Rivals, the buyout of Mega Evolutions, the Pokemon company is going to have to do something. And, as I've mentioned earlier, these are not from distributors' words. These are from Pokemon themselves. They are getting damn close to being able to do something about it. And look, this is a trust me, bro moment. So, you don't have to talk shit. I don't really care. Doesn't matter. But when you see things like this that start to damage the brand, they're not going to stand for it, and they're going to figure out a solution. And I know everybody's, including myself, has been they don't really have a solution. They don't really have a solution, but they have said on multiple occasions when print capacity is going to start to free up. That has been told to distribution. That has been told to many, many people. So. I'm at the point where I think SV pays through Paradox, they're safe. You're not going to get anything there. I think Temporal through Stellar, probably Surging, there's not going to be any meaningful reprint. I mean, even if there is for Surging can take it. Temporal, Twilight, Stellar Crown, if they got any significant reprint, it would smash the price because the market can't handle it. So again, I think the most logical thing is to focus on the new sets. You start focusing on Mega 3, which is the March set. You make sure you reprint Mega 2 and Mega 1. And look, they have been known to dump reprints at the release of new sets. So if it's going to happen, that's when it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, all hell's going to break loose. And it's going to become like a GameStop clown show. And I mean, GameStop, the stock, GameStop, the stock, not, just GameStop itself. So, at some point, there's going to have to be some adult supervision in the market, and that's the only way to do it. I mean, they're going to have to fight this with booster boxes. They're done fucking around with their kiddie games, at least in my opinion, printing the 10-pack EX boxes that just gets sold to botters anyway and gets marked up. So, I think they realize they're going to have to pick their poison to some extent. So, anyway. I think the most concerning thing to me is we have not seen the sales volume pick up here. So it's been 34, 34, 35, 35. So the sales volume in in September was effectively the same sell-through rate as July. So August 8th, back 30 days, which is the middle of August. This is a little concerning to me. Now, this doesn't include Destin. It doesn't include Mega. Um, it's not like these have gone down to no liquidity. But if you go back here into May, there's a lot of boxes selling. And granted, the boxes have moved fairly significantly since May. But the sell-through is starting to be a little problematic in my view. So we'll do this again in a couple weeks. Maybe changes, maybe doesn't change. We'll see. But moving on to the specialty sets, 151 is down about $20. I mean, that thing is zoomed. So, a little bit of pullback, not a big deal. Same with Paldean Fates. Yeah, a little bit of a breather. Shrouded Fable, again, same deal. 79 down to 78. Prismatic, moving upwards. I think this is the most obvious thing on the planet, that when they reprinted this, it was time to buy because, again, when there is product out there at the maximum amount of supply, that is the time to buy. So it's when the product releases, and it is when you get reprints of the product. And that's it. Now, again, this is a material sea change since the bull market. In the bear market, it didn't make any sense because you're buying stuff and you're in dead money because you could accumulate at any point in time because people don't want the shit. It's not the case now. But I will mention that Prismatic sell-through has gone down a little bit. 39 is still super, super healthy. But, once you get up to that 150 range, which quite honestly is probably where it should have been all along, we'll see what happens next. We'll see if it goes back to 170 or if they really fight. If they fight this, I think the interesting thing is, I think a lot of people miss this. Going from Destined, so Prismatic, Journey, Destined, the total number of Pokemon Center ETBs that you were allowed to buy was 1. It was exactly 1. Moving to Mega Evolution, moving to Black and White, you are now able to buy 2. Now, the 2 being 1 black, 1 white, 2 different SKUs. You had to go in and order both items. But nobody really thought anything about it because, oh, great, it's 2 sets. And then you move to Mega 1, and it's 2 different artworks. So you have Lucario in the one, and my God, I'm having a brain fart. I don't know, whatever it is on the other one. I don't really care. But now you're getting 2 there. So all of a sudden, in concept, not only are they printing twice as many, but they're pushing more of the total amount out to the market because, as far as I can tell, the bot controls really didn't have a whole lot of impact other than just pissing off normal people who are trying to manually check stuff out. After waiting in line for 40 minutes, they get you're blocked because we fucked up something with your IP, and the end. So, Mega Evolutions 2. We were allowed to buy 2. Now, this is 2 of the same item, the same SKU. So now it's in your face that they've gone from minimum of 1 to now minimum of 2. So they have dramatically increased the amount of ETBs that they're printing for this, and they are able to print for this. In addition to that increase, we saw a sizable, not massive, but a sizable reprint of Twilight and Surging to the point where it smashed the price from $115 down to $70. Now it's going to recover. But there was enough to move the market, which is something that can't be said for the multiple Surging Sparks reprints because it moved them $15 for booster boxes. So they're printing ETBs. They're printing ETBs at a much greater rate than they've done before. Now, are they going to do that for booster boxes? Remains to be seen. As I mentioned, I have folks who are not at distribution who, they may know things, and they may not know things. So we'll see what happens. But I think the actions that we're seeing are dramatic increases in printing from Pokemon, even though you're not seeing the specific impact on the market. If they fight this head-to-head with booster boxes, they're going to be able to saturate the supply chain. So everybody's going to look at the boxes and say, great, I'll take them. But if you get to a point where there's more than folks can store, and you tie things up, you hold things back until you get to that point, you can have a significant impact in the market and you can start to deflate the bubble. Because if you push product to a distributor, the distributor doesn't have the space to store it, so they have to push it out to the end store. There's only so many dollars that are going to pay top dollar for this until they're going to have to discount the price to move it. And unfortunately, that's going to be the way to do it. And look, I think everybody's kind of singing from the same hymn book where it's gonna be the newer stuff. It's not gonna be the older stuff because it doesn't make any sense. And quite honestly, the market just can't bear it. So moving on, black and white, still holding strong. Yeah, I was actually surprised. I looked at set values of those two, and they're still both over $2,500. I don't know the sets are huge. There's a ton of IRs in there, but there is some decent value in those sets. Now the sell through 20 ETBs each. Yeah, it's okay. But I mean, I look at black and white, and it could be a lot like Paldean Fates in a year and a half, where Paldean Fates came out and it was okay, but now it's on fire. It's probably, it's I shouldn't say probably. I like it better than 151 just because it hasn't been printed into the ground like 151 has. Now I could be completely wrong in my take, but if you had the Bubble Mew, which is presumably on the fast track to being the Moonbryon of the era, that's all you need. And all of a sudden, you're kind of there. Now, look, 151 has a lot of great cards in it. But they don't have any cards that are $700. At least not yet. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, just wanted to walk through this, kind of ramble a little bit. But like the video, subscribe to the channel. Any comments, you have any questions, just let me know. And join the Discord. Have a great night.